Are you guys through, or can we begin the meeting? Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the April 10, 2024 City Council meeting to order. Would you please rise for Councilmember Gregory to lead us in the pledge, and remain standing for Councilmember Gutierrez for the invocation. Thank you.
Please place your hand over your heart and recite with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. Lord, as we begin this meeting, please open up our minds and allow us to fairly discuss all the issues at hand, so we can make decisions that benefit all of us. God, with your divine power and guidance, I'm confident that we will. Lord, it is with your precious name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you. City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Lamb?
Here.
Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Councilmember Gregory?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ross? Here. Mayor Carnevale?
Here. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I have no changes, Mayor.
Thank you. City Clerk, would you please read the statement of participation?
Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction, but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The Mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment, or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. If you are a member of the public and you wish to address the City Council, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the City Clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the City Council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the City Clerk for distribution. And Mayor, I do have a request to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Robert McCormick?
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. I appreciate you giving me the 3 minutes of undivided attention without interruption. I'm going to need the 3 minutes. The first item I would like to say is I want to agendize my 3 minutes. The second thing, I want to make whole. I want me to be made whole for maximum punitive damages under the law of the crimes that were committed against me by Cathedral City Police. On the 28th of February, myself and my fiance became homeless. 16 years, Creekside Apartments, government subsidized Section 8, never been late on my rent, never been late on my bills. I am a decorated United States Marine Corps veteran. My bills were paid. On the 9th and 10th of March, I was living in my vehicle and it was impounded. The street that I was on had no signs saying that there were any restrictions or any limitations whatsoever. I could be on that street for 10 years and nobody could say anything. Per the commons and government property, whether it be a statue, whether it be a monument, whether it be a park, whether it be a public road, any restrictions or limitations has to be posted. The police, when they came to tell me that they were impounding my car, I demanded a search warrant be issued. A search warrant. I was denied that. Then I demanded that I have the right to the pursuit of happiness, not to be harassed or questioned by police whatsoever without reasonable cause of any violation. When I was denied that, I demanded my Miranda rights, that I be given an attorney while being questioned. The response I got was, this is not an interrogation. The Constitution is absolute. The Constitution is absolute, and it does not say in order for you to have an attorney, it has to be an interrogation. It says any questioning by police officers at any time, you have the right to your Miranda rights. Civil Rights Act of 1964, discrimination against the disabled. I suffer from PTSD, psychosis, anxiety, depression, and born with paranoid schizophrenia. I was sexually abused by my brother over a 3-day period at the age of 7. I was sexually assaulted at knife point at the age of 25. I was sexually raped by a physician during an employer-required physical at the age of 28.
Mr. McCormick, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes is up. I'm going to have to, in all fairness, we have to put an end to this.
I ask for maximum punitive damage be awarded.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. City Clerk, do we have any other
I did not receive any other request to speak forms. If you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on items not on the agenda, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're going to start with council reports with Councilmember Lamb. I know you're always prepared.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for letting me go first. I appreciate that. First, I certainly want to recognize the great work of Ryan Hunt, because last night was our final performance from Taste and Sounds of Cathedral City, and Giselle Wu, who's our local star. She went to Cathedral City Elementary School, and she was the concluding act for our wonderful 8 weeks, and it was just a tremendous success. And I know as a council and a staff, we were and community, we want to really maximize our amphitheater, and this was just a perfect way to have a broad spectrum of activities and events and performers for us. So thank you very much for putting that together and making it really happen. So I look forward to, as we go forward, it was just wonderful. And another wonderful activity that we have at Cathedral City was the shredding event. We only have one more left before summer. It's on May 4th, but it's an easy fix. It's right in front of City Hall. The shredded trucks are there, and from 8 to 9 on a Saturday morning, you just drive up, you open your trunk, and they take all your papers that you've confiscated from your husband who doesn't want to let go of any of the Southern California Edison receipts for the last 15 years, and you can put them in the truck and away they go, and it's just wonderful. So easy to do. I saw Mayor Pro Tem and myself, we were at the Veterans Expo, and probably maybe other folks were there, but I just didn't see them. Nancy and I were, Mark was there, Mayor Carnevale. But that's held at the Salvation Army right on Landau, and that is a wonderful facility, and for all the years that I've been here, the Veterans Expo, when it was being held, was held at the Indio Fairgrounds, so that it's moved over to our city and at that wonderful location. It's just been a fantastic asset, so it was wonderful to have it there. Riverside County, I know Mayor Pro Tem announced it a couple weeks ago that this is the month of the arts and culture month for Riverside County, and Riverside County, Louisa Higgins and our own Karen Rowley from the Scrap Gallery partnered to do events for all the residents, not just Cathedral City, but residents in the community. And I was selected to be the guest reader at Barnes and Noble, and it was just right in my wheelhouse. So my tail was wagging, and I got to read to little kids, and they had about 25 students who then participated in a scrap gallery activity using recyclable materials. So it was just a really nice community event, and I'm so glad Cathedral City was able to offer, Karen Riley and her great all the great things she does for the environment through the scrap gallery. And I participated in the Find Food Bank Telethon. Debbie Espinoza is the executive director for that, and every year that is their main fundraising event. And so each of us who participate from the various cities take a turn at answering the phones. And the first lady who called was a Cathedral City resident. So it's open to everybody. to call in and to participate. But she called and she said she and her husband have prioritized certain nonprofits throughout the valley that they really believe in, and she thinks, everybody should be well fed, and hunger shouldn't be an issue here. And so they have made a contribution to that. And so it was really nice to have Cathedral City representatives, the very first call that I got. We all participated, many of us participated in the Meatball Festival, so I won't go on and on about that. But I would like to say that our next emergency preparedness event, it seems like it's a long way away. It's June 1st on a Saturday at 11 a.m. It's not that far, but I wanted to make sure I get the word out because since we started this 5 years ago, we've had one at the amphitheater, we've had two at our library, we had one at St. Louis Catholic Church, and the last one we had was at Agua Caliente Elementary School. So we wanted to make sure that we had it in different locations to make sure each of our residents has the benefit of this presentation. So it's going to be back at the library, which is a central location. It's at 11 a.m. Saturday morning, June 1st. This is also the month of celebrating libraries, and I just want you to know that Kristen Lehigh does a fantastic job in running the programs at our library, and it's a wonderful resource. So if you haven't been by there, be by there. And the Arts Commission, and these are volunteers from our community who have been appointed to the Arts Commission. They have made a decision to have a revolving arts display using the library, and I think that's such a wonderful idea because we have our peace pole there, we have lots of activities there, we have our emergency preparedness community events there, and this is just a wonderful addition. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. Councilmember Gregory. You're welcome.
It's on? There we go. All right, well, it's been a busy 2 weeks since our last meeting. It's hard to believe sometimes it's been 2 weeks. So many things have happened. Our last meeting was on March 27th. On March 28th, the very next day, many of us, I think maybe everybody, was at the Senior Inspiration Awards, one of those few events we were all able to make. It was a great awards ceremony, of course, put on by the chair of the committee, who happened to be Rita Lamb. And so we were honored in Cathedral City to be able to honor Dirk Tack, who is a volunteer, and I don't know if somebody else is going to speak about him that knows more about his experience, but he's a great volunteer here in the city, does some wonderful things for our community. And so that was on the Thursday right after we met last time. And then later that evening, I drove out to City of Riverside. I'm going to talk about Riverside County Transportation Commission because that's kind of a lot of work. And so I've had several events since we last met in relation to that. And that was a retirement event for Ann Mayer, who's been the longtime CEO of the Transportation Commission. She was out here presenting to us not too long ago, and she has now retired today. I'll touch on, we had a meeting there. Today was her last meeting, but she had a retirement event in Riverside, and so I was honored to be able to go out with just a few Coachella Valley representatives and kind of let her know how much we appreciate the work that she's done with the commission that has led to so many projects and has so many in the pipeline. So the next day was Friday, March 29th, and that morning, the Denny's up at Vista Chino in Landau had their official grand opening, so they are officially open. So we were joined by our Economic Development Director, Dr. Stone James. He brought a presentation with us, and Councilmember Lamb and Councilmember Gutierrez also joined in as we welcomed them as an official member of our community. So happy to have them, and thank you to my colleagues and staff for your work in getting everything prepared and for attending. Then on Saturday, March 30th, I attended the Chase Humanitarian Awards. That's a major fundraiser for DAP Health. As did thousands of other people, and we have a volunteer that they work with that I've worked with for many years, Tori St. John's, So she was one of their honorees, and of course the evening was beautiful and was headlined by a local resident by the name of Barry Manilow. Some of you may have heard. So he did a little concert there at the end. So it was very nice. Next Sunday was Easter. So hopefully everyone was able to spend some time with family for those holy days, the Easter, Passover, and all the other holidays that are recognized in that short weekend. Then after that was April 1st, Monday, April 1st. I went to the Coachella Valley Association of Governments office and represented the city on the Transportation Commission. A lot of big projects going on there, and but some of the major discussion had to do again with the traffic relief plan that the Riverside County Transportation Commission is putting together, and CVAG's part of it. And then later that day, I represented the city at the Desert Business Association Mixer. This one was at a restaurant and a bar called Black Book in Palm Springs. Then on Tuesday, April 2nd, I was honored to be able to go to the Taste and Sounds, and I missed the last one. I'll get to where I was, but that one was the Dreamboats, and that one was another remarkable performance. Many, many people crazed out, dancing, having a good time. It really shows, as has already been shared, what a great idea the Taste and Sounds was. I'm glad you had maybe even a better one to end it off. I missed that one, but the Dreamboats could have ended it off because it was a wonderful performance, and I know many of my colleagues attended. I saw them there. I didn't try to catch pictures of people dancing, so I could hold it as bribery, but they're pretty tame. But it was another great event, so thank you, Ryan, and the group for that event. Free concerts here in our amphitheater. There's nothing better. And then on Wednesday, April 3rd, the next day, was our grand opening for the Dream Homes Park in District 4 I know that many of my colleagues were able to attend. The MC for the event was Mr. John Corella, our Director of Engineering and Public Works. Did a wonderful job. Of course, our mayor spoke, and a lot of people that have been involved thus far from staff and from the community were able to attend. It really struck me how big that property is. We knew it was fairly narrow, but it is really, really long. So it's good to see that space is going to go to good use, and it's going to be a great connection for that community to be able to use and connect with the CV Link that is right next door. And then that was my last official event until I took a little break. I did take a short trip out to Dallas because I'm one of those crazy nerds that likes to go and watch the moon block out the sun. So I did take a trip to Dallas and was able to observe the total solar eclipse there. If you haven't done that, the next one in the United States is technically in 20 years, but it only just cuts across a portion of a couple of northern states and goes up into Canada. But in 21 years, it'll come back, and it'll cut from California down to Florida. So those of you that are still around in 21 years, it is a worthwhile event to make it. If it should pass over my nursing home, I may be able to see it again, but this may be my last one unless I go to another country. But it was quite an event. I'll be happy to share it with you if you want to know what it was like. So I did return last night, so I missed a lot of great things. So I'm so glad the council. That's one good thing that we have about our council is we have our certain things that we attend and represent, and we know we can't necessarily be at everything. Although some of the council members are really good about being at almost everything, but I think we get everything covered, even when somebody's away. I did have to get up early this morning and go back out to Riverside for the Riverside County Transportation Commission. We had our official monthly meeting today, and as I said, this was CEO Ann Meyer's last day, but more importantly, we moved forward the traffic relief plan that had come out to be presented. One of the major changes in the Coachella Valley, if there is funding approved, is that it was designated to go to the CVAG's list of the transportation priority projects, and which are important for all of us, and we have some that are a little ways down on there, but that list is due to be redone anyways. But one thing that got added between all of these other meetings that I've talked about with CVAG and Riverside County Transportation, with the support of staff also, was that CVAG is looking at if funding should be made available, that they would put together a pavement management plan for our arterials. So, for example, right now the way it is say we have Ramon Road and it's in the county and it crosses into Rancho Mirage and then it crosses into Cathedral City and it crosses over into Palm Springs. And so each city, of course, is responsible for the maintenance on their arterials. And there's no proposal that says the cities wouldn't still be responsible for their potholes and those kind of maintenance as they came up. But when it came time to do rehab on the roadway, since it's an arterial, if funding is made available, CVAG has plans to put together where they would work with each of the city, expect some participation from each of the cities, but they would also look at how much each of the cities, how much of the roadway is in each of the cities, and how many people use the roadway from other areas, and come up with a formula. This would be something in the future, but come up with a formula that would have more regionally out of this funding that would come up from an additional funding measure, so that each city wouldn't necessarily be responsible for their piece. CVAG would do the whole, or arrange to have done the whole arterial, and it still has to be worked out, but it would probably be based on a number of factors, some of it being the length of the piece in your city, but some of it also being how much of it is used by people from other areas inside the Coachella Valley. I think that's very important for us in Cathedral City because we know that many of our, especially east-west roads, are used as pass-throughs from others through our city, yet we are totally responsible for the maintenance of those roadways. So that was a very interesting plan. So I, of course, supported that and helped shepherd that so that it was actually written into the traffic relief plan and move forward that way. And thanks to, of course, again, John Corella and our city manager for their behind-the-scenes input, and to Tom Kirk at CVAG for helping make that happen. It's still aspirational at this point, but sometimes these things that we lay out years before, when it comes time for these things to actually move forward, it becomes very important as to the way they were laid out. We're often the beneficiary of that ourselves, so we try to make sure that we're continuing to do that and being good stewards of the city moving forward. So that did make it into the traffic relief plan that was adopted today in Riverside for the county. There was some squabbling, but it was mostly on West End projects, which is normal. When some of you get to serve on that commission, if you haven't already seen it, you'll see. But it did eventually move forward, and staff there was instructed to put together a sales tax measure. It would be an ACA 1 compliant measure. So if ACA 1 passes, and the measure gets at least 55% of the vote, then there would be an additional county-wide sales tax, but they would be divvied out so that each portion of the county would receive their funding. And again, our funding here in the Coachella Valley could go towards major projects and that arterial pavement management plan. So that's important. It hasn't really been finalized to go on the ballot yet, but it continues to move forward. And I think everybody, even the polling, recognizes that the roads are not where they're going to need to be either now or in the future anywhere in the county. So that's pretty much universally accepted, although nobody wants to pay for it. It also is painfully obvious that although things like SB1 have helped with some state funding, there's not enough funding or going to be enough funding if we don't do some things locally to try to get these things going. And as we always say, SB1, since it's a gas tax, will eventually diminish or go away unless something changes. So that was an important step, and that did move forward today down in Riverside. So just want to mention that if you're not aware, there's a couple of little music things going on at the other end of the valley the next couple of weeks. So, just be prepared for the extra traffic and the visitors. We like to have the visitors, but this time sometimes it can get a little busy, but it is good for our economy, and I know that often our public safety is stretched a little bit because not only are they watching our area and and with the extra visitors we have here, but they're also helping out in other areas of the valley, particularly at the festivals. So we welcome the festivals that'll be going on. I'm not attending this year, so I don't know if any of my colleagues will be attending, but I occasionally get talked into going to Stagecoach, but not this year. And if you are staying here locally, which I highly recommend, CV Rep is starting or does have a multi-week show going on. It's nice work if you can get it. It's an old musical. And so I know I'll be going to see it this weekend, and hopefully I will see some of you there, if not that performance or at another one. Support the CV Rep. And with that, I'll end my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Gregory, and thank you for the hard work you do for the city here in Coachella Valley, for the road work that you put on there. No, it's very important. Roads, number one complaint here, so thank you very much. Councilmember Gutierrez, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Nice to be back once again. And I just want to let you know that I did survive the lunar eclipse. I'm happy to turn on the TV and don't have to hear about it any longer, or the radio. And since we last met, one of the wonderful things about this council is that we participate in so many events together that when you go to a lot of ceremonies or events that many officials from throughout the Coachella Valley attend, what happens is you sit on tables and you can actually see that certain cities only have one representative representing the entire council or their staff. And when you look at our city, we always represent our city well. There's always 3 to 5 of us in each event. So that's something wonderful that I enjoy about this council, that we are supportive of every event, not just in our city, but also throughout the Coachella Valley. And as I was going through my list and I was listening to my colleagues here, I just kept on crossing things out. I don't want to repeat them, but we did most of the things together, so I'm not going to bore you to death this evening. But just the different things that I did do besides what my colleagues did was I was able to do a Spanish TV news interview regarding the Dream Homes Park. They just asked me to see what I thought about it, and since I grew up in the Dream Homes area, they were asking me to see what the neighborhood or the neighbors will actually enjoy about it and if they would appreciate it. So I got to talk a little bit about it and about growing up in that area. And I did it both in English and Spanish. So that was one of the things that I did differently than my colleagues did. And the other one was sometimes we don't hear some great things about our staff, but I was contacted by a developer in Cathedral City. This developer was very upset and just could not be quiet on the phone, just almost screaming and yelling through the phone as to how disappointed he was doing work with our city. And after he calmed down for a second, I talked to him, and he was having some issues getting his permits approved. So I told him that I would contact our city officials and see what we can do. I did, and within a couple of hours, we set up an appointment, and they contacted this developer. They met 2 days later. The developer called me about 15, 20 minutes after the meeting, absolutely thankful that things were worked out. He was so disappointed that things were going back and forth for months and months and months, and he could not continue to work on his development. After contacting and meeting with city officials, he was delighted that things were actually worked out and he was able to move on with his project. So he mentioned a couple of names: our city manager, our assistant city manager, our engineering department here, and also Andy worked together to make this work. So thank you guys, and he was very happy to work with you. And that's, besides repeating everything else that my colleagues did, that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem.
One of the hot topics of interest for a lot of us in this region is the environment, economic and public health issues associated with the shrinking Salton Sea. As the water inflows decrease, sea levels will decline, exposing highly emissive lake bed or playa that contribute to poor air quality, including the dangerous PM10, one of the region's key criteria pollutant, as the particles are so small they easily get into your lungs. Most recently, at a Coachella Valley Association of Governments committee where I represent the city, we received updates on efforts to mitigate declining water levels and on the Colorado water negotiations that have a real regional impact for us. Given the nexus to the Salton Sea, we requested an update on the lithium extraction at the sea. It's something I'm just both concerned about but also really interested in. According to the Lithium Valley Commission report, the Salton Sea known geothermal resource area is believed to have the highest concentration of lithium in the world. It's also important to note that lithium has been listed as a critical mineral for the United States, positioning the Salton Sea region to be a key competitor and source for the mineral. In January of this year, Controlled Thermal Resources broke ground on what they call Hell's Kitchen Plant Number 1. This project will produce 40 megawatts of geothermal energy and produce approximately 25,000 metric tons of lithium annually, which is the amount needed for approximately 415,000 electric vehicles. Imperial County has appointed Bari Bean as the county's Deputy Chief Executive Officer for Natural Resources, and I am fortunate enough to be taking a meeting with her tomorrow. I will report back at our next meeting with 100 questions I have ready for her. I mean, but in a positive way. This isn't a go gotcha meeting. I'm interested and curious and want to know what our future looks like, not just for the Salton Sea, not just for the lithium, for the neighbors around it as well. So it doesn't do us any good if we save some people by, really annihilating the others. So I will report back at our next meeting. But in the meantime, if you want to reach out to me with questions you have, I would be happy to share them tomorrow. We'll be talking about this for many years, both the pros and the cons, and I want you to all feel like you are partners in this discussion. Thank you.
Great. No, thank you very much. I attended an event at the Roost for Voices for Children, and they do a very good job in their events there. They raise $55,000 for the children that have been abandoned, homeless, and it was really a nice event. Along with City Council, I'll be brief on this too. I was at the Dream Homes, and I did see your interview on the TV, Councilmember Gutierrez, and it was very nice, well put. You represented the city, awesome. I attended the Senior Center Scam Awareness event put on by Assemblyman Wallace, and Councilmember Lamb was with me there. It was a nice event. And also I attended the Salvation Army's Veterans Expo along with other council members. And then, Councilmember Gutierrez says, we do a lot of these events. Well, it's got good food at all of them. We had Krispy Kreme donuts at the Senior Center, great lunches. But I also attended a birthday celebration for Mrs. Scott that lives here in Cathedral City on her 100th birthday. And that was at the Spaghetti Factory. So there was another win for me there. And I spoke with numerous residents that had some concerns. And I attended the Inspiration Senior Awards. And then, of course, the Meatball Festival that Scott Robinson puts on every year, which is bigger and better. And it was a lot of fun out there. And, you might have seen the eclipse, but you missed Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem in her Fred Flintstone and Wilma Flintstone outfit. That was the head of the party there. So, with that being said, we're going to move right along.
Did you notice, Mayor, I didn't mention that?
And the meatballs were good, too. You did a great job there. They were all good. I didn't have a bad one. Okay, will the city clerk please read the consent agenda items?
Item 3A is to waive full reading of ordinances on the agenda. Item 3B is the minutes approval of March 27, 2024. Item 3C is to receive and file payment of claims and demands from March 2024. Item 3D is to ratify the nomination of Mitchell King by Councilmember Raymond Gregory to fill the unexpired vacant seat on the Architectural Review Committee continuing through June 30th, 2026. Item 3E is the annual approval of the city's investment policy. Item 3F is to approve and amend the restated Joint Powers Authority Agreement with Visit Greater Palm Springs. Item 3G is to accept and approve the Tropical Storm Hillary soil removal project M0020 as completed, and authorize the city manager to execute and file a notice of completion with the Riverside County Recorder's Office, and authorize the release of retention funds to Stice Company, Inc. upon expiration of the notice of completion. Item 3H is to conduct second reading and adopt the ordinance authorizing the levy of a special tax within improvement area number 20 of the City of Cathedral City Community Facilities District number 2006-1, law enforcement, fire, paramedic, park, and general maintenance services. Item 3I is to adopt a resolution of intention to establish improvement area number 21, CFD number 2006-01. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Is there any members of the public who wish to comment on any of these items on the consent agenda?
Mayor, I did not receive any requests to speak forms, but if you're a member and would like to comment on any of the items on the consent agenda, please raise your hand. And I do see one. Please join the podium, sir. State your name and residence for the record.
Hello, my name is Mario Rodriguez. I'm a resident of Cathedral City. So I just wanted to show support for the Panorama Park residents that their houses got damaged by Hurricane Hillary. I would like to see them get funded to be able to repair their damages. So I just want to...
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you for that. City Clerk?
Are there any other members of the public that wish to comment on any of the items on the consent agenda? And I see none, Mayor.
Okay. Any council members need to comment? Okay, we voted, and it's not working?
Mine worked.
Okay, there we go.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lamb and a second by Councilmember Gutierrez. Motion carries, all ayes.
All right, thank you very much. Award a construction contract to Hardy and Harper, Inc. for the Panorama Neighborhood Reconstruction Project.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the next step in the continuing efforts to repair and rebuild the neighborhood damaged by Tropical Storm Hillary. This will repair the streets, and our Director of Engineering and Public Works, John Corella, will provide the information on this.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, fellow council members. I'm going to make this presentation. We've had a myriad of cats running around today, so Armando's still chasing them and grabbing them by the tail, so I'm going to do this presentation for him. So this project involves reconstruction of Panorama neighborhood streets, something that we pretty much all know about, affected by Tropical Storm Hillary. You can see the location finder there that puts that at the northeast area of Panorama. So a little background. City Council is well aware of this, so is staff, but for the members of the audience in there that may be tuning in for the first time, Tropical Storm Hillary left a lot of debris and sediments on the roadways. To remove that debris and sediments, there was a significant amount of heavy equipment that normally wouldn't be on those roadways. And you got to remember that residential streets aren't designed to carry these heavy loads as frequently as they were during the storm. So all this heavy equipment, loaders, dump trucks, they basically accelerated the deterioration of the road for up to 8 years, we calculated, older after the event. So when we did our fiscal year 23-24 reevaluation of the storm, these are all projects that you've seen before. You knew they were coming. This was back in November when we rejumbled up the CIP and we looked at the budget to get these projects done. And we also did SB1 resolution to include funding for some of these projects. So everything you're going to see here, you have seen before. These are the projects list. And you can see Horizon Road Panorama, Los Gatos, North-South Alley, and East-West Alley. Now, last council meeting, you authorized RIAS for streets in this area as well as other area of the city. These are roadways that couldn't take a RIAS treatment. We're actually lifting off 3 inches of asphalt and putting 3 inches back down. We're not messing with the base unless we have to, but that's the plan on this program. So you can see the PCI rating. It's in the poor range, 40. And as we said, it deteriorated between 10 and 15 points, which is equivalent to about 8 years. This project consists of removing that asphalt and then reconstructing it, and then all the ancillary things that make for putting back the street. The project is intended to restore that PCI that we had before and restore accessibility and drivability. And we have submitted these projects with the exception, we have submitted these projects and walked with FEMA on these streets. So it's still up in the air whether they're going to fund all or a portion or any part of it, but we've already done the job walks on the area and it's progressing through. So an invitation to bid went out March 3rd in the Desert Sun. It was advertised, city website, Planet. You see these all the time. Just to let you know that all our engineering bids were pretty consistent in those platforms to bid, have our bids. Bid opening was held at City Hall March 20th. And actually, we were really pleased because we got a lot of contractors bidding on it. When a lot of contractors bid on it, the price gets a little lower. So $636,000 was the low bid. Hardy and Harper, we're familiar with them. They've done work with us before. It's a good contractor. Under the engineer's estimate, as you see there, which is pretty fun since we haven't had that in a long time. So we do have the program funding. We did this back in November. We're consistent with that. So we're using assessment district funds for the panorama area that we moved some projects around to fund a portion, and SB1 fundings that's available. So the project cost, Hardy and Harper gave that nice bid. We're putting a contingency on there of 15%. Comes out to about $732,000. This does fit in with our strategic plan of community investment, B15, which is develop that 5-year pavement management strategy, get our streets back up and maintain them at a high level. So as in your staff report, we're asking the City Council to approve the awarded construction contract to Hardy and Harper in the amount of $636,000 to construct those roadways, approve a 15% contingency, and then authorize the city manager to execute the required documents and authorize city engineer to request the bonds and insurance for projects. That's the end of the presentation.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Thank you,
back to
John.
you.
I don't have any speakers in the queue. Council, any questions? City Clerk, do we have any?
Just want to echo that it's always good, as you said, to see things that are the engineer's estimate. Hopefully that's a portent of things to come, since we have so many paving projects coming up that hopefully some of the costs are abating or it's becoming more competitive. So thank you for all your hard work there.
Okay, no comments from the
Mayor, I
public.
did not receive any requests to speak forums, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor.
Thank you, John. We're ready for a motion. Okay, they voted? Oh, you're not working there? Okay.
We have a motion by Councilmember Gregory and a second by Councilmember Gutierrez. Motion carries all ayes.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item B. I'm going to probably butcher this word up. Machevala feast? Okay. I'm just going to skip over it. I'm going to just have Charlie. Do we have a staff report?
We do. Ryan Hunt will provide it. This is an event that Luchador Brewery has done before, and it was very successful. This year they're proposing to move it to the amphitheater. They're requesting approval of the special use permit, and I believe will also be requesting consideration of a sponsorship request. Ryan?
That's correct. Thank you, City Manager. Appreciate it. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, appreciate all your kind words and attendance throughout the Taste and Sound season too. It takes a village to put those on, so I want to give thanks to John Corella in Public Works and his crew, Eddie Moore in Facilities, and Chief Contreras, who sent, I think, a fire unit just about every week to have that kind of community showcase. It was really great. So. Yeah, sure. There you go. But here to talk to you about Meet Javella Fest, and Justin Finn, who's been the organizer of this in the past, is here. If you have any other specific questions that you have beyond this presentation. Luchador Brewing's Meet Javella Fest, I think you're pretty familiar with it. You've approved a May version of this event that is just the Festival Lawn Annex, and you approved the September event last year that was also utilizing the same space. So scheduled for 4 to 11, but proposed for your approval on Saturday, September 14th. That is Mexican Independence Day weekend. I think it falls on a Monday this year, so the Saturday celebration, as did last year's, fall on they tied it in with Mexican Independence Day, which I think is great. Event organizers are requesting use of the community amphitheater this year, and I'll tell you why. So the inaugural Meet Javella Fest, which I believe Councilmember Gregory attended. I saw some of the photos. I wasn't able to make it out there myself that weekend, but they produced a sold-out crowd of 1,600 people and ultimately had to turn people away. So obviously that's a great success to have, but it's also something you want to be able to rectify to be able to increase attendance. So they're looking for a larger footprint and venue, and that is the community amphitheater of Cathedral City. I also need to give Luchador Brewing credit for an event that you all approved as well, Desert Brew Fest, so they do have some experience being good stewards of that property as well. So the event will feature vendors, live music, over 20 choices of beer, artisan vendors, a classic car show, Lucha Libre Wrestling, and so this is a public ticketed event, but it would be a similar program to what has been done in the past and what will be done in May, just obviously expanding a little bit in its footprint for the amphitheater. Event organizers will have guards, private security, conducting searches at the entrance of the event, which they've had for all of their events, which we appreciate, placing special wristbands, making sure they keep a close eye on the bar areas, and I believe that's a total of 5 to 6 security personnel that will be on site for this event. Organizers are also aware of the city's sound ordinance that goes into effect at 10 p.m. Got to rattle down that noise a little bit, want to lower the decibels to the necessary audio levels to comply with this. I want to mention we also did check the decibel levels throughout every Tastes and Sounds up to the fence line to make sure we were in compliance with CB Rep and some of our other neighbors, because we know that our amphitheater does pump out some sound occasionally, so we want to be able to be good neighbors for that too. And Burtech has been contacted and agreed to supply both trash bins and scattered trash boxes. Cleanup staff will be on site, and portable toilets will also be just outside the amphitheater on that street area, not inside the amphitheater, outside. I want to make that clear. So with that, a proposed sponsorship came in after the staff report was completed, but in time for this presentation. So I'm going to go through it, and then if you have any specific questions for the event organizer, but it is being proposed that the city would be a platinum sponsor of Meet Javella Fest. And so Cathedral City, based on that sponsorship, would receive 10% off all tickets for Cathedral City residents, the logo on the website sponsor page, logo on all the 40,000 promotional flyers and 1,000 printed posters, inclusion in the event press release. I believe they're doing a dedicated media announcement that the city would be involved in, social media mentions, e-blasts, thank you mention in those e-blasts, on-site logo placement, a complimentary booth at the event, industry exclusivity, prominent placement of the ad on, they have an LED wall. They purchased that for Meet Javella Fest events in the past, so our logo would be running throughout the entirety of the event on the LED wall. Listed as a platinum sponsor in all materials, multiple coordinated and customized promotional opportunities. And so what event organizers would like Cathedral City to provide in exchange for that partnership would be, I like the word sponsors, but in this case waives the rental fee to use the amphitheater and provide city services as needed with police and fire. So that is obviously pending your approval. The SUP could happen without this sponsorship agreement, and then it would be up to the event organizer if they still want to move forward, but I wanted to put this out there for you all. I do know, just talking to police a little bit, if the city services would be provided in that booth that would be executed by the city would be able to be used for recruitment. So they would use that as an exchange for that component as well. And then the amphitheater fee, to call it waived, is a little bit, the money has to come out from somewhere. So this would come out of the communications and events sponsorship budget to be $5,000.
Is that it?
This is the map and the diagram. I wanted to make sure you guys got to see kind of what they're planning for the amphitheater, a lot of the components that were in the festival lawn to be able to move into the amphitheater. There's VIP seating, there's general admission areas, there's the Lucha Libre ring, the car showcase, kid zone, and then the restrooms. And you can't see it on this map, but if you look to at the very edge when you're entering the parking structure, that street along there is where the portables would go across there on the right, on the bottom right corner of the map. What's that? Where they usually go. Yes, exactly. That's been a consistent spot now. Halloween Spectacular, Balloon Fest. I mean, you've seen them mostly in that location. So, I never recommend any type of sponsorship. I think that's your all's decision as a council to be able to make that. So I am recommending the approval of the special use permit for the amphitheater usage. And then it's obviously up to you all if you wanted to take up that sponsorship offer that's been presented. And I can go back to that for your review if you wanted to. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan, on that. I want to ask the city attorney, this wasn't agendized, the sponsorship. So would it be legal to go ahead and bring it to council now when it hasn't been agendized?
Did the organizers request a sponsorship in their application materials that's in the packet? I didn't notice that.
It is not in the packet, no.
Yeah, no, you have to bring it back for separate authorization.
So that's off the table?
It's just approval of the permit this evening.
It would have to come back.
So we're just going to take that off the table. Legally, we have to.
The other option would be is if the event is going to occur or their sponsorships are going to close before your next meeting, you would have to add it as an item of subsequent meeting.
I'm sure that would be too late by then.
It's not till September.
Oh, September.
In fact, it could be in next year's budget.
Yeah, but we can discuss that too, because typically these are asked prior at the beginning of the year, so we can.
Yeah, we can discuss that in future meetings.
Okay, Ryan. So what I think council is going to suggest here is bring it back to council, and then we can approve it or disapprove it or what have you. So.
But you'll still hear the actual approval of the SUP, right? You're just mentioning the sponsor.
Yeah, it's the sponsorship that we're holding back on. No, absolutely.
Understood.
Absolutely. Any questions from council for Ryan?
So when it comes back, could we have an estimated cost of the waived services also of the police and fire? Because we've used to be routine to do that and then find out later when there was a lot of overtime and this and that, and that's a concern. And then the other concern I have when it comes back, since we're not discussing it tonight, but since they're in the audience, at 10%, usually we get a sizable, either a number of free tickets for Cathedral City residents or a sizable discount. So 10% is nice as a gesture, but it's not really in my opinion. When it comes back, I will be expressing if it's still 10%. That's not, in my opinion, that's in the range that we would normally get, especially for a $5,000 plus cost. So depending on what the total is there, they might want to take that into consideration because this is taxpayer money and we want to see value back to the residents.
As the event organizers are in attendance, I'm sure they're hearing you as you speak. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, council member, for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Otherwise, they have great events. I will say that.
Yes.
City Clerk, do we have anyone from the public like to speak?
I did not receive any request to speak forms, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. Yes, sir. Please join us at the podium.
I'd like to thank Ryan for bringing this event, planning it, the Mexican Independence Weekend Festival. I've been to them in the past, and I've had a lot of fun. I enjoy them very much, and I think if we're able to produce it again, we should do it as a city.
Okay.
And thank you for your concern of taxpayers' money, because we do need to be careful with that. Thank you.
Sir, would you state your name for the record, please?
Oh, my name is Mario A. Rodriguez.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mario.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to comment on this item? I see none, Mayor.
Councilmember Gutierrez?
Yes, Mayor, when we discuss the sponsorship next in future meetings, if we can also bring some tasters, make sure that we're okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And we should be able to get that on the next agenda. I don't think this is something that needs to take a long time.
Okay, so we're going to, no more comments or questions, and we're going to go ahead for a motion. And it looks like Ross and Lamb are... There we go. There we go.
We have a motion by Councilmember Gutierrez and a second by Councilmember Gregory. Motion carries all ayes.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ryan, for that. Approve library lease agreement between the City of Cathedral City and County of Riverside. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
I'm going to try to struggle through this one. Ann Ambrose has worked diligently on this for the last 6 months, probably. Unfortunately, she is ill and unable to be here tonight, but I'll go through the presentation the best I can, and we can take it from there. Let me just make sure I'm going the right direction. Okay, so the first community library opened way back in 1983. It became a branch site a year later. Even before that, there was a 3,700 square foot library on Highway 111. In 1996, the current building was built by the former redevelopment agency and a California State Library construction and revenue bond issuance. The last lease agreement between the city and the county has expired, and both the county and us missed that expiration date. Since then, however, we've been working to execute a new lease agreement. As in the existing lease that's been in place for the last number of years, the city is responsible for maintaining the exterior of the building. We own the building. The common areas, the parking lot, the heating and air conditioning equipment, structural plumbing, structural electrical wiring, and fixtures and the building structure. The county, under the agreement, is responsible for providing all the library services, the utilities, the custodial, and general maintenance of the interior. So basically, if it's inside the building, they're responsible for it. We're responsible for the building itself. This is a 2-year agreement with options to extend. This is a little different than what we had in the past, and part of the reason why we felt that it was important to have a shorter agreement this time, there's been some discussion about the use of that building and how much space of the building does the library really need, and is there room for other things in there? And we really haven't had adequate time to work through those conversations. So we felt a 2-year agreement with the option, and then we can come back after 2 years, and if everything's worked out, you know, it can be a longer term then if both parties feel that that's in the best interest. There is no fiscal impact from the execution of this agreement. We budget for the facility maintenance along with all of our facilities in the facilities budget. The operational costs of the library are paid for by the library district tax that residents of Cathedral City pay into the county, and that supports the operation of the library. So there's no actual money that changes hands in the execution of this lease. Staff does recommend the City Council approve the lease agreement with the County of Riverside and authorize the City Manager to execute all necessary documents. Kevin Biersack's also here if there's any financial questions about it, but that is our recommendation. Thank you.
So how does the county get their money? Is there a tax that they receive?
There is. There's a county library tax that every property pays into, and so that doesn't come to us. That just goes to Riverside County, and they pay for the operation of the library out of that.
Yeah, I thought so. It just wasn't mentioned. So for clarity and for anyone watching, that the county is not doing it necessarily out of the goodness of their heart, although I know they're concerned about the literacy of our population, but that they do receive some remuneration from some.
They are compensated, yes. Mayor, I think that's a good suggestion, and as we talk about, you know, what building footprint is needed for the library and things, that would fit really nicely into that. So we'll try to work that out over the next few months.
Thank you. And I had a question about the idea of having a 2-year lease. So So is the conversation in these next 2 years, is the potential for somebody to sublease, is that to sublease part of the library to do for another purpose? Is
Well-
that what the thing is?
Yeah, there have been discussions about, do they really need the full thing, given the fact that much of the materials have gone electronic, of course, and don't take up as much space. Could it operate in a smaller footprint, which would then give us room? And I think this was actually even an objective in the strategic plan a year ago, to make sure that we were making full use of the facilities and resources that we have. And so we're just not ready to have that determination yet. And so we thought a 2-year agreement made sense. We can work those things out and then do a longer-term agreement after that.
Thank you.
Charlie, is the Ranch Mirage Library, is that city-owned or is that that's private? Because I know they do a lot of events over there. They got a snack bar in there. There's always events going on over there. And the County of Riverside doesn't operate that way?
I don't believe that one's operated under the county library system, but I'm not sure. I know just recently the city of Palm Desert has taken steps to take over their library and operate it directly themselves rather than the county. I don't believe we're equipped to do that at this point, but over the next 2 years, we're going to take a hard look at how we do library services and the best way to provide that and how much space they really need, and that's really the reason for the 2-year agreement.
I guess this question's for Kevin. Is it a break even with the library for what we pay for them and what they give us? Is it a break even? I'm sorry? They don't. Oh, I thought we received some monies from them. We just contract to them. Okay. Okay, I was unaware. I thought they rented it from us. They don't.
No, sir. Basically, what the city manager tied back to, we budget about $60,000 for annual maintenance. We don't hit that on a normal year. That's what we budget. A couple of years ago, we had to do significant roofing repairs, and we brought that to you all. And that was a separate allocation and a budget adjustment. But the winds that we've had this year, we've had roofing tiles fly away. And so we've done minor repairs, and that comes out of the $60,000. So we actually have to budget for that from our own general fund.
I got you. Okay, and $60,000 isn't all that much money.
It is not.
For a facility of that size, and would it?
And when we had to do the roof,
community?
it was like $160,000, and that was a special situation because it is our building.
Okay.
And do we have to pay anything when we use the community room, or is that normally just done as scheduled through them as long as it's available? Okay, that's good.
We just schedule the use of it, and we use it probably not as much as we should. It looks like this summer we may be using it. That's part of the cooling center plan that will come forward in about a month.
We've done we do grounds things. So with our PS tree service contract, we utilize them on an ad hoc basis. We've had some sidewalk repairing that we've had to do. That comes out of that budget. So it's small potatoes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. City Clerk, do we have anyone like to comment on this?
Mayor, I did not receive any request to speak forms, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. Yes, sir, please join the podium and please state your name for the record.
My name is Mario A. Rodriguez, and I want to say thank you for the council board members for giving me the opportunity to voice out my thoughts. I think the Cathedral City Library is a very good and very important structure and facility. I know that the Cathedral City high school students, when they're out of school, when the day's over, they go over there to be in air-conditioned rooms and be able to study for a while. And I remember when I had my younger brother in high school here at Cathedral City High School. He used to go there and to the library and study. And even I go there before more often, but now I've been working. So, but it is a great building, and if we can support the library, Cathedral City Library system, I would recommend it.
Good. Thank you, Mario. Anyone else? Are we ready for a motion?
I don't believe we have any other members in the...
Thank you. There's it's off the air.
Give it a second for it to show.
It's off the air, but there it is.
We have a motion by Councilmember Gregory and a second by Councilmember Lamb, and motion carries all ayes.
All right, thank you very much. Item 7, discussion on future agenda items. Does the council have anything they want to bring to the table?
Yes, Mayor. I do have an item to discuss in a future agenda that, given the fact that when you watch the news, there's a lot of issues with squatters taking over properties, whether they're residential or commercial. And there are some cities that have taken steps to fight squatters before the problem gets too big. And I would like to actually have our city manager get together with our city attorney and come up with some ideas as to how we can protect our property owners within our city when it comes to squatters. It is such an important thing that we should be aware of and actually fight it before it becomes an issue. When property owners do run into problems with squatters, as seen on the news, it can be a 6-month to a year to 2-year problem, and a lot of these people can actually lose their properties because of the financial hardship that they endure during this problem. So I would like to, with your support, actually talk about this in a future agenda item.
That's very interesting. I guess a question to the city attorney. Can we do anything above the state, or are we bound by state law on, is it local? We have control over?
There's two things involved. One, if it's somebody occupying somebody's private property, then generally they have the rights to remove them under the eviction procedures. It can be lengthy and expensive. If the house becomes a nuisance, it's abandoned or something of that right, then we can step in. But if it's otherwise not necessarily a code, if it doesn't create a public nuisance, then it's a private property issue. I'm happy to explore it more with the city manager and of course with Andy and his team.
Yeah, one of the ways that other cities are fighting this is by actually having coming up with an idea as to having the property listed with a police department as this property being vacant, and anybody that is on that property that is not listed in an application filed with a police department, there will be a fee to be charged and for the application to be filed. And if the names or name listed on that application, if anybody else shows up on that property, they are not allowed to be in there. They're trespassing.
Okay.
So if we have that application with our police department and nobody's listed, the police can actually assist before it becomes an issue.
And I think what Councilmember Gutierrez is talking about is it's common to have somebody write up a fake lease. And the police get there, and they aren't lawyers. It's not even their job to figure out whose lease is valid and whose lease isn't. And so they have to say and take it to court. And that can be a problem.
So we can prevent that with this application.
That's what cities are doing.
And Councilman, you agree to look into this?
It's worthwhile. I think we have a number of part-time residents.
And yeah, we have 2 or 3 that I was aware of that I've just asked code, police, and fire just to keep an eye on. But I think what he's talking about is probably something like a vacant property registry that would have trespassing notices, I guess, assigned to it. So we'll do some research on what other cities do, and between Eric and myself, and we'll bring that to you all for discussion. It'll probably take us a little bit of time to get that ready, so I'm guessing sometime over the summer, if that sounds
No
reasonable.
hurry.
It's not just abandoned homes. You could go on a 1-month vacation.
Sure.
So it's snowbirds that leave in the summer.
Correct.
And you come back and you have a family or 10 people living in your house.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, let's look into that. It's really, really good. Thank you for bringing that to Cathedral City. The next regular city council meeting will be held on April 24th, 2024. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.